It's Saint Paddy's Day, and you're watching XJW Live.
Hello, my name is Jason Wynne.
So I guess we should talk about Norway and what's going on there, because that'll take a bit of time. Jason, what do you think? Kind of what did you get the most out of this whole ridiculous submission?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising. I guess with the submission, it was always going to be the same arguments. I mean, if you look at that submission, it's a 40-page submission, but they had previous to that written, I don't know, was this 20-page submission, which had more or less the exact same arguments. All what they've done is beefed them up a bit. And also what they've done is they've kind of looked at the activists, Jan and Feruli, as being problematic, and referring them the same way throughout the document. I can't remember the wording. I don't know if you have it up there, but if you do, you can probably pull out the wording. I'll
find it.
I'll pull it up here. Let's do this here. So I'll be able to find it because I got this all.
Dissatisfied.
Yes.
Here we go. Dissatisfied former Jehovah's Witness.
All the way through the document referred to them as dissatisfied. And I don't think that's conducive to the argument they're making. They would have been better off just calling them the former Jehovah's Witnesses. Maybe call them dissatisfied at the beginning and not say it further, because all you're doing is you do not like criticism. Now, I know I view Jehovah's Witnesses, the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses, as extremists anyway. This feeds into that extremism. And I've been saying that to governments for quite some time, is that they're an extremist, right? Not in the violent sense, but they're extremists in the psychological and mental sense. And then when you see this kind of wording and referring to them as dissatisfied former Jehovah's Witnesses the whole way through the document, they're basically what they're saying is, we hate these guys, we hate these guys, we hate these guys, because they just say bad things about us and they never say things in a positive light about us.
When I bring out my case, when that comes out, oh my goodness! I know for a fact that the government entities, the attorney generals, they see that. They see this manipulating way of speaking about their former members. For sure, they see it.
Yeah, disgruntled.
They call me disgruntled. Yeah, and they have a lot of other things to say about me and the other individual that you were already mentioned his name.
But that is identifying a problem. And they're actually identifying a problem without addressing the problem. And the problem is, why is Greg Westgard disgruntled? Why is Jan Nilsson dissatisfied? You have to answer that question. And when you go and look at that question, then you have created a problem. And really, that shouldn't be identifying people as disgruntled or dissatisfied. In fact, it's not conducive to the argument.
It's like an insult or a slur before them. You might as well just say, we're referring to these assholes.
Yeah. It's almost like corporations speaking negatively about their competition. That you can see through that, and that's why a lot of corporations actually don't do that. They try not to directly speak negatively about the competition because it looks bad on them. It's the same thing with the Watchtower. These government organizations see through that for sure.
Jehovah's Witnesses clearly are not self-aware, which is a very big problem for them. And they're not self-aware because they are a group of men, a bit like the oligarchs in Russia, where they've surrounded themselves with yes men. So when you surround yourself with yes men, every decision you make is a great decision.
Mm-hmm. Such an unhealthy atmosphere. It doesn't. Even the leadership are, I would imagine there is yes men in the governing body.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But you have to be a yes man, because if you're not a yes man, well, then you're a problem and you need to be taken out. I mean, that's it. If you look at a body of elders just at the congregation level, if there's an elder that questions direction, well, then he needs to be taken out. You've seen that in Ireland. question
Yep.
direction. The direction is that you contact the legal department. You do not report to the police. You need to be taken out. So if a governing body or a helper or anyone at any hierarchical level, be a CEO, whoever, an elder, you will be taken out if you are not a yes man. You have
Yeah.
to comply. You have to be loyal to Jehovah, aka the Watchtower Corporation. So yes, it's a yes man organization surrounded by yes men, so they're not self-aware.
I think what's critical in this Norway thing is the way they talk about, because I think, is this kind of the first time they bring up minors or on how kids are treated in the shunning process, because the way they paint it is just full of misleading and flat out false statements.
I think it is one of the first times, isn't it?
Well, it's they have to address it, because what Norway is saying is that your shunning policy is coercing children and is harmful to children, because what you're doing is you're separating them from families. So they had to address it. But what's interesting about the Norway situation is like previously, if you look at the Canadian situation, they said that they don't shun. Normal family relations continue. Yes, they do say in this document normal family relations continue, but I mean, the Norwegians
They also defend their ability to shun as well.
Yes, so they're contradicting themselves, because they're trying to say one thing when they're actually saying the other thing. So they're defending the right to be able to coerce people to shun, and then at the same time they say things like, "Well, children, even if they were this fellowship, they've got friends outside the religious group," forgetting to acknowledge the
I couldn't
part that
believe it
in
when I
their
read
literature. But and this is where I'm going to get to my point, is what they say in the literature is they say that you have bad associations spoil useful habits. So they want to divide you from anyone that's non-JW, so that if you did get this fellowship, you're on your own, and the only support you're going to get is to come back to the organization. But here in this documentation, they're making it clear that they're trying to make the claim that you can have support outside, but no, you don't immediately have support if all the people you ever had, if you had followed Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine to the T, and if your parents had forced you to follow the doctrine to the T, you don't have friends outside Jehovah's Witnesses, and you don't have that support.
It's just, and I mentioned this in the previous episode too, the lies that are in there. That's one lie about how, they've probably developed friendships outside of the organization. They even say that JW children are allowed to join sports programs. And, did you notice that in there? I was like, the lies are just incredible.
But isn't this is one of the points about Jehovah's Witnesses? I mean, is that they lie? I mean, this book, every Jehovah's Witness and ex-Jehovah's Witness is very familiar with it, Insight in the Scriptures, and this is volume 2, Jehovah Tzuzim. In this one, if you open it and go to lies, right, and you look at how they define lies, and here at the very beginning, it says it's concealing the truth from those who don't deserve it, right? Whereas a lie in secular publications and dictionaries is a lie is not telling the truth. Full stop.
Yeah.
But Jehovah's Witnesses redefine what a lie is. So once they redefine what a lie is, they can lie and tell themselves that they're telling the truth, because they've just twisted it so because you don't deserve to know it. So you as an apostate don't deserve to know it. You who are under the control of Satan, which is all entities outside of Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't deserve to know the truth. And you can be sure the likes of, the expert folk, and I mean Holly folk, and the person who intervenes in helping them, Massimo Intervenia, those kind of guys that help them, they don't realize that even Watchtower will lie to them to a certain extent, even though that they're helping them. But these guys are helping Jehovah's Witnesses because that's what they do, that's their business, and that's what they get paid for. So they're always going to help them, and they're going to twist things, and they're going to pretend that they're experts in child sexual abuse and other matters, and they're involved in the whole Norway case. They're quoted quite often and being told, and Watchtower likes to say that they're renowned yeah, they are renowned, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And you'd really think that the Norwegian government haven't copped on to the fact of who Holly Folk is and who Massimo Intervigna is. We know who these guys are, and they're not good
Hired
guys.
guns.
They're not good guys. They only defend cults. So
Yep.
if you have them supporting you, you need to know you're in a cult, because that's who they are. That's what they represent. When you see them on jw.org, you just have to admit to yourself you're in a cult.
So what do you think, like, here we are, Watchtower has submitted an appeal to the decision in Norway, which, for anybody that's not familiar with the situation, the Norwegian government removed the government funding from the Watchtower organization because of their shunning practices, especially with regards to minors. Now, the Watchtower, what we've been talking about the whole time, specifically, is the Watchtower's appeal to get that decision removed. I wonder, like, I wanted to say two things. One, do you think that will have any success? And even if it does have success, in the event that it does, which I hope not, but there's still a lot of progress made. There's still positives we can take from this situation.
Okay, so yeah, there's a couple of things here. First of all, right, Watchtower have weaponized the Jehovah's Witnesses, or a certain number of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I've seen activists in ex-Jehovah's Witnesses weaponize XJWs to fight against other XJWs that come out of the community. But also,
you've seen that? You know that's happened?
Yeah, and so you see this,
Wow.
you see this happening in Jehovah's Witnesses, and they've done it with Russia. They weaponized 8 million people in Russia to write letters to the Russian government, and they can do that at will. They just have to send an announcement out to the body of elders.
Right.
They'll send it to the congregations, and you got to write letters, and they'll write letters.
They have this infrastructure that we don't have, or not nearly as big.
Yeah, well, they have complete utter control over their members.
Yeah.
And to be able to engage all the members to start writing letters just shows the power and control they have over the members. But what you see with what they did with Russia was counterproductive. It didn't help them. But they're doing the same thing in Norway.
Are they really?
They're doing the same thing. So what you have is,
I didn't know that.
they have a system where you have to publish things to a certain website, and you submit your letters there, and that's what they've done. So that I think there's two reasons for this. It's one, to kind of prove the point in their appeal. They talk about that it's only 2 guys, maybe 3 guys.
2 or 3.
They said that a couple times.
Small minority.
Yeah, a very small minority. Ignoring the fact that there's a lot more XJWs that just are relying on these 3 to represent them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that's one point. The other point they're ignoring is that there's 72,000 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses on Reddit. And that's a huge community, and that isn't representative of all the XJWs around the world, but it is a huge number. And that's a huge number when you consider it. That's about 1%, or just shy of 1% of Jehovah's Witnesses numbers. So that's quite a significant number, and they're completely ignoring
For sure it is.
Right. But so now what they have is they set the stage. We have 2-3 fellas that are just causing problems for us.
Troublemakers.
Former witnesses, right? But now what we'll do is, okay, we might not do this in a written letter, but we'll do it vocally through the circuit overseers to contact elders in congregations that maybe for the most loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, that they could write in to the government to say how they find the shunning is acceptable. So they can weaponize them. And they've weaponized at least 200 to 300 Jehovah's Witnesses to write in to the Norwegian government, and they're basically bombarding the system with all these letters that are useless, and they're probably saying the same stuff in all of them. And I think, just like in Russia, it's going to be counterproductive for them, because it shows 2 things. One, it prevents the voice of XJWs being heard to a degree, and 2, it's filling up the system with spam, and that's not going to be looked on favorably by the things. It was unnecessary. And you're not really doing yourselves any favors, so you might lose anyway. Not for that reason, but it'd be a part of it will cause them a headache, and they'll go, why are you doing this? This was unnecessary.
Yep.
You're just
The governments and the legal system don't like irrelevant information, and they don't like to be bombarded with stuff like that. You know, and that's why the Watchtower has been kind of labeled as, you know, abusive litigators. You know, they will do that.
But this is what is concerning them, because you think the likes of, you know, they put in their appeal, but Feruli now and Jan, if they want to get in their letters, how can they be sure that those letters will be found amongst this 250? Because you can be sure that the government isn't going to read all of these. They're going to read one or two, see that they're all the same, and then ignore the rest. So Feruli and Jan have to go and find other means to be able to get that information to the government, and I'm sure they're looking at that, because it's you don't want it to go missing, and they have a right to be heard, and they have a right to answer to the appeal. So Watchtower using underhanded methods, but there's a reason for that. This is very important. This is the most important reason. If you want to learn anything about the Norway case, it's this. They didn't write this serious 40-page appeal to lose. They need to win. And you go, why would they need to win? Well, because, other than the case that they don't get their money back, and you think, okay, well, they could go to the ECHR. They don't want to go to the ECHR. They mention the ECHR over and over and over, hoping that Norway will accept their appeal and they don't have to go there. Because if they go there, there is the serious risk that they lose. And I'm confident, I'm at least 90% confident that they'd lose if they go to the ECHR, because they're trying to turn this into a human rights issue when it's not a human rights issue. Well, you can look at it as a human rights issue, but it's not really. This is the human right is that you have a right to believe and you have a right to practice, but you don't have a right to money. But they're trying to turn it around that they have a right to the money, because through the Constitution of Norway, that you're allowed money to help you with your thing. But that's a privilege, and a privilege is the right.
Couldn't this work in our favor then, if it did end up going to ECHR? Because that's what we want to do, is bring them to the table that it is our human right to change our religion without consequence. Now they've put that on the table. We didn't put it on the table.
Go, Nash. That's exactly where we want to go. That's where Nash wants. That's where Jan wants to go. That's where Feruli wants to go. That's where I want to go, and that's where all of us XJW should want to go. Because
what about the actual UN instead of the European?
Well, see, so this is a European issue. So you go to you have to go to the European Court of Human Rights. Now, if it doesn't turn out well, I don't know. Can you go to the United Nations and appeal it? I'm not sure. I think the ECHR in Europe, at least, is the highest level that you come.
Yep.
But
we have plans for the UN.
But the European Court of Human Rights is based on the UN.
Charter.
It's the charter. It's the same. If you look at Article 18 of the UDHR and you compare it to the Article 9 of the ECHR, they're more or less the same. The difference is, and this is where I'm always focused on, right? In Article 18, they talk about the rights, and Jehovah's Witnesses like to interpret it as that they have an absolute right. But if you look at Article 29 of the UDHR, it doesn't. It says that your rights are limited insofar as they don't infringe on anyone else's rights, and that's very key. And people, and even human rights organizations, ignore that when talking about religious rights. Nearly that they have an absolute, they don't. Yeah. And it's the same. It's the same, but it's not as strongly worded in the ECHR. It's Article 17. And that's slightly worded differently, but it's still based on Article 29. And I think, and there is, see, with ECHR, you have the standard list of articles, but then they've appended them and they've added in other ones, and further down the list,
it gets complicated.
It gets more complicated, but you could forcefully argue that they're infringing on others' rights by practicing their rights, and that's where we have to draw the line, and we have to say we have to limit someone's rights. It's kind of like the thing of, you could believe that you can sacrifice someone, but that infringes someone's right to life.
Yeah.
Right? So we limit it, that religions can't do that. So in the same way with shunning, we need to come to the point where you can shun insofar as it doesn't limit the rights of someone else, and you have a right to family. So you're infringing on someone's rights by going that far with shunning, and we have to get to the ECHR, and we need a ruling to say that no, your shunning is limited insofar as it doesn't impact on the family, and you're impacting on the
And
family.
one big thing I wanted to mention, this is what my thought process in this whole thing is: if we are successful in this endeavor, what it does is it increases an individual's rights. Because let's say you're a member of the Watchtower right now, you don't have a decision. You don't have the ability to shun or to not shun. You can only shun. So if we're successful in this, it doesn't remove rights from people, it increases rights. And these human rights, this is what really drives me nuts, and because I sent you a piece on this, is that these rights are individuals' rights. It's an individual's human rights. And I feel that these religions, and the Watchtower is not the only one, they've hijacked it to believe to say that this is the organization's rights. No, these are individual rights, and so but like you say, it does get complicated. That's why there's lawyers that are that spend their whole life on human rights, and there's a lot of and I'm not oblivious to that. But man, I think we are at the beginning of our work here with regards to taking these things to these higher courts and these higher authorities. I think we're just at the start.
Yeah. And just on the whole activism thing, there's another person that I think you should interview, is probably Jan Nielsen.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about him. Yeah,
because he's doing great work. And just on that tweet I had done on what is an activist, someone goes, like someone has mentioned that, sometimes we've tried this, but we failed. But you know what? Jan failed. He tried, he failed. He tried, he failed. He tried, he failed. He tried, he failed. He went to a lot of different organizations and journalists before he got heard. But then it just blew up. Once a journalist saw that this is actually a good story in a small town with a small newspaper, but he wrote a huge article on it about child abuse, I think it was, and it was related to the elder down in Spain that that abused the grandchild and so forth. Then that exploded across Norway, and from that, the whole Norwegian country know now what Jehovah's Witnesses are all about. They have a greater knowledge of this small religious group who are supposedly harmless, and no longer have Jehovah's Witnesses have been able to control the narrative in that country, like they've successfully done in other countries. And that's what we have to get across here in our own countries, is that right? You go and you contact a newspaper, you contact your government representative, and you show them information. They may not bite first, but go to someone else. And go, if that doesn't work, go to someone else. Keep going, keep working. Don't just give up on the first failure. It requires an awful lot of work on our own.
But you know what, too? It's like scientific, the world, they stand on the shoulder of giants. These people like Jan are the kind of one of the first individuals to get through that wall and get bloody. The more people that break through that wall, the easier it'll be for the next person. Because now that does carry a lot of weight. If we go to the Canadian government and say, well, look what Norway's doing, and that carries a lot of weight, and so theoretically it should get easier and easier for us as, we spread this kind of movement through the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because things like bans on Jehovah's Witnesses don't help us.
No,
they only help Jehovah's Witnesses because it feeds right into the narrative.
Yes.
So what we need to see is governments holding them accountable for the things that they actually are doing wrong. I don't care if they believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Doesn't matter to me. None of that matters. What matters is that they do break families up, and that they have a terrible blood doctrine, that they have a CSA problem and a huge cover up. Like, there's some serious things that the courts can handle, and governments need to stop looking at it like this is a religion and it's hands off.
Yeah.
And the only way we're going to get there is, like Jason said, is we kind of have to hound people, and it's a lot of work, and you kind of have to be annoying. But
that's what activism is.
That's what you have to do.
Jason, can you speak about? We've talked about Germany. Great conversation about Norway and Jan. I'll be excited to have him on here, and I think there's another individual involved in that too. So I don't want to, it's not
Really?
just Jan's. I think there's other.
I reached out to Jan though.
Yeah. What about Belgium? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so you have Patrick Hake and Pascal Mertens. So Pascal Mertens isn't actually or ever was a Jehovah's Witness. Pascal is his mother is a Jehovah's Witness, but he was never one. But he is an activist. He sees the harms in Jehovah's Witnesses, especially the shunning. And Patrick Hake. Patrick Hake has been, is a former elder, and he's been working a long time in activism and has worked really hard behind the scenes. And they've gone to court against Jehovah's Witnesses to show the harmful aspects of the religious group. So it's good to see that what's happening in Norway and happening in Belgium at the same time are kind of, it's very productive work that's going on.
Is this his website here?
Yes. No.
This is a different one. Hey, okay,
yeah.
Well,
no, they had a page. I can't remember what the page was.
I know I've seen that page, and you know what? I'm going to put it in the description. I don't have it now, but I read it and it was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, and that people can just write in and give their own story because it's good. It helps. I think people should give their story. That itself is a form of activism because you're sharing your story. That story being able to be used as proof that shunning is harmful. So your story related to shunning specifically is what we're looking at.
Yeah, he says if nobody talks, your situation does not exist either.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important that people tell their stories. And shunning is specific as well.
Yeah. So they've been doing an awful lot of work. They went to court, they won the court. There's an appeal ongoing with Watchtower. I can't remember the date of it, but they're working on that. They have a good good team to support them on that. And again, just to activism, we talk about activism and money. People give money to activism, but there's zero money coming from XJWs that are supporting them and their legal team to do that. So, this is what really concerns me. Is people how they're using their money. Are they really using it for activism? Do they think that the money they're given is actually making an impact? It isn't. I don't.
It would be nice if we could figure out a way. We'll work on that. Where we can figure out some way where individuals can contribute and actually have their money go the distance.
Yeah, because it would be good to see the thousands of dollars that people can raise for activism, that it could be used for these court cases, because court cases are costly. But if we were raising good money for them, we can defend ourselves wherever we are in the world where there's this pool of money. Not that it's owned by any one person, but it's a pool that can be shared for the different things. You look back at the Truth and Transparency when they went to court. Who was giving the money? In fact, one of the activists that's that's a big focus on at the moment, he was criticizing them for wanting money to help them in their court case. But that court case, if they had gone to court and they had won that would have been a massive win for activism within the XJW community.
Yes.
And yet there was very few that would think. In fact, a lot of people gave out that they folded too quickly, but no one gave enough money. No, and yet this same activist was getting thousands of dollars per month himself for his own activism that was not used to be able to provide meaningful activism. So so the work of Patrick Hake and Pascal Mertens, we got to keep a close eye on that, see how that goes. They're in contact with me. They have sent me a document to have a review that they're working on. I have to.
Well, all these situations deserve their own episode of, Norway for sure deserves a whole episode just on that. Germany, Belgium, and then we haven't even. We're not going to have time to talk about what's going on here in Canada with the data collection issues. Now that's still, there's still a decision coming down the pipe, so we'll probably wait till a decision's made till we make a whole episode of it. But there is just a lot going on here, and we're going to do our best to try and promote as much as we can what's going on all over the world here.
Yeah, so there's all these things going on. There's also the case in Brazil, where they raided them. That's still ongoing. Who knows where that's going to turn out? That was all.
And the United States court cases with CSA and Mark O'Donnell.
The grand jury, exactly. Yeah, the work that O'Donnell and Hawker are doing there. Yeah, so there's that and others, I guess. So all this activism, if we could support these in some way, or if you get news about something, because sometimes you hear about some situation, maybe it was a child regarding a blood transfusion, it makes the news headlines. But if you were in that country or in that city where that happened, are you able to go on to Avoid JW or another resource to get information, the secret information, especially that new S55 document that was just revised there in March, and that's available on Access JW and also on Avoid JW. That document is very useful for hospitals. So if you were in the hospital, if you were in the city where that happened, or you're in the country that happened, you could send that document anonymously. You don't even have to say who you are.
Right.
And say, this is how Jehovah's Witnesses kind of empower parents to try and enforce their anti-blood transfusion policy. So be wary of that, because you won't be able to they won't talk to you unless you are a relative of that child or the family. So don't even go there. Just send it anonymously, probably, and just have a look at this. It might help you, especially if you're doing a war to court to get that child. This
is just all such great information. When somebody wants to become an activist or they want to do something, I think the first thing that comes to people's mind is, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I really love how you're giving different ideas as to how you can really become, like the tip of the spear type activist, letting governments know, letting, organizations know. This is just all great information.
Yeah, because I have seen, on Twitter and Reddit and elsewhere, that's on social medias, people are always saying, oh, that's terrible, to see this news thing, and or they'll see something about CSA or whatever, and yet they go, has anyone sent that off to anyone?
Yeah.
Like, well, why didn't you do it?
Even Twitter, you can, like, what's your member of parliament or your local, in the States, your congressman or whoever, you can contact these people on Twitter. You can send them a message. And, maybe it's not the congressperson or the MP or whatever that sees this. Maybe it's their assistant, but you never know. You might strike gold one day and it gets sent up the line and somebody contacts you. You never know.
Because actually, this is one of the things that really annoys me, is when someone says someone should send that on to the government. Yeah. Someone shouldn't they? They really should. Yeah. Have you ever looked in the mirror?
Yeah. I can't be putting stamps on things, mailing all sort of letters.
Actually, Nash, there's one now. Mailing letters. Right. Yeah. So let's go back a few years. Right. So back to 2017, July. In July, I dated the letters July 3rd, 2017. I sent out a 6 or 7 page letter to everybody of elders in this country. And that was one of the key activism things I did regarding CSA, because I'd found out about a case of CSA, and I thought the most powerful thing that I could do regarding this case of child sexual abuse is inform everybody of elders, because as I looked at it, is that the way Jehovah's Witnesses handle child abuse is only one certain way. And we're told that if you look at the May 2019 Watchtower, and they say how to deal with child abuse, it's always the same thing, and they give the impression that they comply with the law. And maybe they do comply with the law, but they don't make it clear that actually we don't report child abuse when it's not required for us to do so. Right? So there's no mention that in the thing. So this case came up in Ireland, and I go, hang on a second now. This is now my opportunity to be able to say, is this how it's done across the country? So I took all the details. I found all the details from an anonymous person. They contacted me, gave me as much information. I asked them a whole load of questions to get as much information. It took me about 8 months, 9 months to get as much information as I could from that individual. I don't know who that person is to this day. I thought it was one person, but it turns out it's not. And so it was an anonymous person, gave me all the details, gave me pictures of the alleged pedophile and all the details of the case. I wrote 99 letters. I put pictures of the guy in the thing. I put in the S66. I don't know if you know what the S66 is. Go on to avoidjw.org to find out what it is. But that's how the branch deals with child sexual abuse. So if you contact the branch, this is the guidelines they're to follow. So when two elders phone, they just follow the guidelines. So I thought, I'm going to empower all the elders in Ireland. This is what happens when you contact the branch regarding child sexual abuse. So I wrote a 6-page letter, gave them all the details about child sexual abuse, how it was all handled, how it all goes, and are you happy with this? Do you think this is the way that we should be dealing with child sexual abuse within Jehovah's organization? And I posted off all the letters, right? Cost me a lot of money to post them to all these 99 congregations. So it wasn't 99 Kingdom Halls, I should say, not 99 congregations, more congregations. I sent them all off. Some got returned because, you know, most of the modern Kingdom Halls don't even have letter boxes now. Surprise, surprise.
Interesting.
But anyway, a lot of them got there. The branch started getting, and I timed it so that they would get it the week before their convention. So the convention was going to be the following week, right? So I wanted them to get them the Sunday or during that week before the convention, so that when they go there, this guy's going to be walking around in the convention. Are you all happy with that? You know, it's the thing. But the branch started getting in questions from elders phone.
Really?
From a thing, what's going on here? And they thought it was a one-off first, and then eventually it was like they had to go and contact every COBE, you know, the coordinator body of elders in every congregation in Ireland, said, if you get a letter, destroy it. Don't open it, destroy it.
Don't even read it.
Yeah, and you know, as they are, they some would have just destroyed it.
Well, and how many? Maybe you helped some elders wake up there. If nothing, you know, obviously we would like if the Watchtower took more of a frontline approach and to protect their own publishers from abusers. But you know, at least maybe you help some of these elders wake up.
Maybe, but the thing is as well that I think the point I want to make as well is, right, this is what I could do in my country.
Yeah.
So if you heard about a case in your state, whatever state you're in, don't assume that all the Jehovah's Witnesses are aware of it, because they're not. The Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to shut down to any negative information about their organization. It's all false news, all fake news. So, but you could write a letter to all the congregations, go find them up on jw.org, get all the addresses, write them all down, send off a letter with all the details, as much details as you can, maybe even news articles, put them all into that envelope. Yeah, it'll cost you a bit of money, but you know what? That's activism. And that's you doing a bit of work, and that's you being able to show that this organization is not the squeaky clean organization it likes to think it is.
Wow. Yeah. Like if somebody just takes away that from this video, that's just amazing. That's awesome. You know,
you've said that about 3 times now, Greg.
I know.
Yeah. How many things do they have to take away?
Just take away everything. Just take away everything except my hat. You don't have to remember that. you know, we're over 2 hours here now. Okay. I did want to get to, and Nation we wanted to get to you personally. I know that you kind of, you took a break from activism there. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit with regards to, you know, how does a person kind of keep activism in check? What are the pitfalls you can fall into? You know, riff on that for a little bit.
Right. I guess I have been working extremely hard in activism from, I suppose, it started to ramp up in 2016 for me, massively. 2016, I was getting an awful lot of videos relating to the conventions. I mean, most people look at the conventions, of 2016. You know, the one where they're all in paradise. I mean, all of those became available on avoidjw.org. That's where most people got the videos. Other activists then talked about them up on YouTube, and that's where it started to ramp up for me with my activism and work and getting information. All these leaks were coming out, and they were coming out massively, and I was spending hours and hours and hours, and I was working a lot. And then I guess when it came to 2000 and late 2020, I was on Twitter a lot, on social media a lot, at Facebook. I was running all these different things, and I was spending too much time on social media, because I find, you know what, XJWs, there's an awful lot of them that are keyboard warriors. Very easy to criticize others and not to attack themselves, and criticize the work that you do, even though they haven't a clue what you are. But they seem to be experts on Jason Wynne, or experts on Nash, or experts on Greg. They're all experts on everyone else. Yet can't seem to self-reflect, and not realizing actually you don't know anything. You don't know the amount of work that people are doing. And it was starting to annoy me. It was getting to the point where I was getting angry. And being on social media and dealing with this and facing this while you're doing all this work and no one's paying you. And then there was a certain activist that actually I had a disagreement with, and that was fine. The disagreement was grand, but then I had posted something related to something, and I can't remember what it was, but I had got the facts wrong because they were presented to me a certain way and I misunderstood them. So then I went back and I said, actually, I got that wrong. Let me just clarify my point again. And then this activist came in and just attacked it, because I guess he assumed that, well, I've written a big article on JW Watch about this particular subject, and so I'm an expert on it, or that's how he assumed he is, and that he had all the facts right. But he didn't. But he thinks he did. And others might think he did, but he didn't. But I didn't have the facts right either. I'll admit that. But I gone back then to the source, and they clarified again for the third time that actually you got it wrong here. This is what we meant. Okay. I went back on Twitter. Sorry, I'm wrong about this, but I was right about this. So this is how it is. And then he just attacked me and attacked my my ability as an activist, and criticized me.
I heard some of those
I
attacks.
just really attacked. Just went in really, really gone on a tirade, basically.
Said that you want to be some activists want to be the only source of leaks.
Yeah,
I think was one of the ridiculous comments.
Said that you imploded.
Yeah, but what he'd done is he managed to weaponize a whole load of his followers, so that then they started attacking me, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It's like if I was having an argument with another person, and there was some others on Twitter that were getting involved defending me, I'd say, get out of it. This is none of your business. This has nothing to do with you. This is between me and this guy, and we'll just have our discussion. So piss off. But this individual didn't do that. He actually encouraged it and allowed these people to just berate me, even though that they don't even really know what's going on, other than that I'm in disagreement with their cult leader. So I just said, okay, enough's enough. You can all piss off. So I just I stepped down. I said, I'm stepping away from activism. I'm moving on. And I
have to ask you, do you feel a little bit validated now, Jason? Do you a little bit now that a lot of the community, and especially the activist community? I mean, I'm not gonna, but do you a little bit?
I don't look at it as vindication, no, because I think it's actually I think it's disappointing, to be honest, because
so true.
I think if you're a good activist, or if you are good at what you do, and you can garner this amount of followers to be able to help you, you should be actually using them for positive ability, and you're not doing that. In fact,
there's not much positive that came out of this whole thing. Not much positive.
No,
if any.
And this is another problem I have with the whole situation with Thailand and all that sort of thing, is that right? There are so many people obsessed with the subject, to the point where, when you left the Jehovah's Witnesses, you were obsessed with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's okay. I think that's okay, because it affects your life immediately, especially with regard to shunning, or if you were a child abuse survivor victim. it's affected you wholeheartedly, or you psychologically, you've PTSD for all various reasons, with Armageddon and everything like that, or maybe you've been affected by the blood transfusions, a family member died, and so forth. So you have a reason to be able to be so focused on the Watchtower and the Jehovah's Witness organization. But a load of these, when I say you, I mean there's an awful lot of ex-JWs that were so focused on this guy as being nearly their savior, that he saved me, he woke me up, so now I owe him. But you didn't owe him anything. And then a lot of these people who were duped by him are now so focused on him in such a way that they were focused on the Jehovah's Witnesses, as if this guy had caused them as much harm as the Watchtower has. He hasn't. Let's be clear about that. He hasn't. Yes, what he's done has been detrimental to our activism and the work that we do. I really believe that. But look, the best thing you can do for someone like that is unfollow, block if you have to, focus on your activism,
unpatron
the real problem, and move on. Now I don't mind the whole comedy, because he's actually turned this into a huge comedy, especially with his begging letters, the legal begging letters. That's what
I wanted to get your opinion on the litigation as well.
Yeah, I mean, here you go. I've got Watchtower that have threatened me, but at least Watchtower's way was a little bit more professional. It's just like we're saying this, and that it's trademarks and copyright and all the rest, and that if you don't stop, we're going to take legal action against you. So that's the way it is. But with this thing, it's just like we think you've done a couple of things. We're not going to mention those couple of things, but you did them, and we want you to pay $3,000, $6,000, $8,000, whatever amount of dollars. Give it to our client, put it into this account for us, and then we won't take criminal action against you. It's not even civil action; it's criminal action. It's basically say, pay us or you're going to prison. Which, as Capitan has mentioned on Twitter,
unbelievable.
That is extortion. And I don't know if it's extortion in every country, but I think it might be, because you don't take money. In a criminal case, what happens is it's between the government, represented by the Attorney General, versus you, and it's you either pay a fine or you go to jail, or both.
Well, if that was the case, every rich criminal wouldn't be in jail.
Yes, exactly. But here they're looking for money as if it's a civil case.
Yeah.
But it's not a civil case. If it was a civil case, fair enough. This is you give your money, and that's it. We won't take you to court.
I'm disappointed that these law offices will lend their name to letters like that, to strong arm people, and to use their authority to threaten people like that. That's a lack of integrity.
Yeah, but Greg, you gotta realize that these guys haven't a clue. What I mean by they haven't a clue is they haven't realized, first of all, who ex-JWs are. They just see this guy came into their office, some randomer, and he's saying that there's a couple of guys writing about them. They don't know who this guy is. He probably hasn't even told them who he is really, or what he does. Yeah. And maybe given them a brief thing, but probably presented it the way he loves to present it, because he has to control the narrative. And now what you have is you got this guy with his two trainee lawyers, writing up letters thinking that, you know what, we can scare these guys. We'll scare them all off. But they don't realize that actually there's been plenty of, you go on to Avoid JW, go to Philip Brumley Witch Hunter, and you'll see 60 plus subpoenas where we're so seasoned with getting court documents sent to us that we're just like, yeah. Piss off.
you should see the amount of documents that Watchtower served me, but like just a stack. I've read so many legal documents in the past few years. It's just crazy.
But that's it. So they don't realize who they're up against, and they feel that these threats will work. And Lloyd is a little bit naive, I think, in that regard. I think he has no clue, anyways, regarding legal matters.
He's got a little bit of cash in the bank, and he figures he can.
He thinks he's got a legal team. I mean, he calls them a legal team, but a legal team is where you have I know in Ireland, if I had a legal team, I might have 2 or 3 solicitors, and I'd have 2 or 3 barristers, or at least 1 barrister, maybe 2 barristers, especially if it's a very important case. That's a legal team.
Exactly.
And it's the barrister.
O.J. Simpson had a legal team.
Yeah, and it's a barrister. In Ireland, it'd be a barrister sending me a letter, and that's going to cost money. But it's going to be a very strongly worded letter, and I'm going to be terrified by it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Is there anything else you wanted to say about that? You're back. You seem to be back now into the activist community. Are you fully back? Are you still kind of hanging back? Or what? How do you describe that?
No. My wife doesn't want me coming back.
Okay.
And I want to. I don't want to come back, so I won't be coming back to a grand extent. But I will link in people that need things. I will help people out where they want information. They can contact me at any time, as always. But there's like, for me, I need leaks can come to me, because as soon as everything is through this now, I have through my phone. As soon as it's released, it's up on RTK. RTK is exjwlive.org/RTK. Maybe put that down in the description, because that's where there's an awful lot of information, and anything that's published straight away will be on there. I don't publish publicly a lot of any of the information that's publicly available on the JW on jw.org, but all the stuff that's secretly available, secrets, is published on RTK, because you have a right to know. RTK, the right to know. And I think that's what people do have a right to know, and the whole point of it is to empower them and to be able to make them all activists in their own meaningful way.
Yep. Well, I just want you to know that this platform is available to you whenever you want to do your own episode. If you got somebody you want to interview, some topic you want to do, what's ours is yours.
Something big happens.
Yeah, because you know what? Actually, that might be a good thing. At some point, maybe we could do a discussion, because IICSA isn't finished yet. We never got into.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that at all. Man, there's so much to. Yeah.
But since it's the last one, we'll just say that IICSA is the ruling. When I say the ruling, it's what's the outcomes from it, and what's the recommendations that IICSA is going to give to the government, and that's going to impact all religions in the UK, whatever they come up with. I'm hoping they bring in mandatory reporting. That would be a good.
That would be a win.
Yeah, be a good start.
Yeah. So there's things I can't talk about that are related to that, and
just so people know, you were a core participant.
I was a core participant. Yes. Yeah. Watchtower kind of questioned that, because they're not really sure. Actually, that being a core participant was a very interesting thing, because the Metropolitan Police in London actually came over to me.
Really?
They came over to Ireland, and they interviewed me.
They had to check you out first.
Not check me out. I mean, they grilled me.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Wow. So I can't tell you a huge amount about that.
Yep.
But just
stay tuned. That would be
Yeah,
that would be awesome if you kind of run an episode and go in depth about that once some decisions come down, whether good or bad,
Yeah, so there's going to be a bunch of events that are going to happen over the next while, I think, in the United Kingdom. Hopefully, the situation in the Ukraine will have diminished somewhat, so that it can become the focus. But when that becomes the focus, there are some of the core participants that I would like to take hosts and interview them, because there's some interesting individuals there. I don't want to name them all because there's too many of them, but maybe we could take a number of representatives and talk to them, and
that would be wonderful,
because there was a huge amount. I didn't do a huge amount of work in relation to IICSA.
Yeah,
they did. These people in the UK, both in England and in Scotland and Wales, those people, and Scotland wasn't involved in IICSA, but there was members of the XJW community, like me from Ireland, had helped and were core participants. And between a lot of us, we've done a lot of work, but some did a lot more work than others. And I think some did so much work that they've retired as well from activism, but they
burnt them out.
they did tremendous work. There was tremendous work done in that regard. But most people, all they see is one particular individual who does YouTube videos, not realizing actually there was 13 other individuals, and of those 13 individuals, there was hours upon hours. If you were to count up the hours, I would say you're talking about a month worth of work. I mean, a month as in 24-hour days by 30 days. That amount of hours worth of work.
That would be so nice to showcase all of those people and give them a little bit of credit, you know, for what they did. And you know what? They probably, at the end of the day, maybe some of these people that have burnt out, they could look back on that, and they can, they want to
pride in it
themselves a little bit about what went on there. Yeah. Yeah. I have one last question for you. Nash might not have more, but so if you were to think of yourself, abstractly, Jason, would you be in the XJW community? Would you be Yoda, Obi-Wan, or Luke Skywalker? Who are you? Which one would you consider yourself?
We don't do Star Wars questions on here.
Well, I'm a Star Wars fan, so fortunately, yeah.
Of course.
Are you the Yoda of the XJW community?
No, I'm not Yoda. I'm Luke Skywalker.
Skywalker.
Like Luke Skywalker, because like Luke Skywalker, I didn't have a father in the Jedi Knights of Jehovah's Witnesses. I only had a mother.
I didn't have a father either.
Oh, really?
No, but I'm not Luke Skywalker. I'm nothing compared to you. Can I be your Padawan learner?
You C-3PO.
I'm C-3PO.
I'll be the R2-D2 maybe. We're the team.
We're R2-D2 and C-3PO. You're taller than me. I'm the short guy. I'm the short robot.
I got my cement sacks again today, so.
Well, you know what? I think that's good enough, Jason. I want to personally thank you for everything that you've done. I mean, I've worked a little bit on our thing that we're going to talk about lately, that we're going to talk about later, but it's like nothing in comparison to the amount of work that you've put in to these websites. And, even if we get 25% or 50% of what you were in the past moving forward, if that's what we get, then we're lucky to have you in this community.
Thanks very much. I appreciate
it.
Thanks.
So are we good? Are we, Nash? We
closing? I think we're done.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we actually don't know who the next guest is. We got a few that we have lined up, but you'll hear, pay attention to us on Twitter, pay attention to us on Nation does some Reddit stuff and Discord, I think, as well. So thanks for being here, Jason, and see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.